All right, so here's our next lesson. We're going to continue with combining functions. Today we're going to get into multiplying and dividing, but first I want to do a little bit of review. First, on domain and range, graph the function f of x equals 3 minus x for the interval -7, 1. So this is an interval notation. This means this is our domain. So I'll just write a D so I remember those are my x values. Then find the domain and range and intercepts of the function using set notation. So this is the domain and interval notation. They're asking for it in set notation. So what I did was I went off to Desmos, our graphing calculator. I went ahead and plugged in this function, and then I created a table for all these x values. It looks something like this. Let me scroll up so you can see my actual equation and table. So as a reminder, I put in f1. Let me get this guy out of the way. F sub 1 of x. 3 minus x is the equation. Then I created the table. Had to have a regular x, just like I do up here, and f sub 1 in here. Here are all the x values they told me in interval notation. It starts at -7, goes all the way up to +1, and then it creates these dots on the screen. Let me find my writing tools again. So the idea is we want to go ahead and connect these dots, and this should be a straight line. I'm not very good with my online writing tools. Pretend it's a straight line, but it starts here and it stops here. Now, if you'll notice, these had brackets on the end of it. So that means that -7 and 1 are included on our graph. So you'll notice I put solid dots here, and every point along the line is also a solid dot. So it includes all those. We have one intercept right here. It is the y-intercept. If I click on that, I should be able to see the coordinates. Yep, 0, 3. So the y-intercept we just identified as 0, 3. There's no x-intercept because this line doesn't reach the x-axis. So when I come back over here, I can go ahead and write that the y-intercept was 0, 3. Well, now I need the domain and range in set notation. Remember, the fancy college way is to open up the set, state that domain is x such that, that's what that straight line means. X is going to be in the middle. Arrows always go left when we have two numbers that bound it. Same thing for the range. We're going to put an R, open up our set. Range is y such that y is going to be between two numbers. We got to figure out what those two numbers are. So let's look at our graph. Or our table, actually. If we have to stop at -7 and stop at 1, our lowest and greatest value is 10 and 2. Remember, we got to put those in order, not necessarily the same order as the x side of the table. You want to ask yourself, 10 and 2, which number is smaller? This one's the small number. This one's the larger, the big number. So coming back over here, when we write the range, we want to put 2, the smaller value for y first, and then 10, the larger value. Now for the domain, it's the same. We're just not going to use brackets. It'll still be -7 and 1. We just got to change how it looks, how it's written. We got to give it the set notation and write it formally using the inequalities. So that's it. We've answered that question. That was your review on domain and range. Let me review real quick on how to add and subtract functions. We're actually going to take this a step further, add a third function. Remember, you want to always write these in order, h minus g. So what was h? Up here at the top, they tell us h was 5x plus 8. Minus, whenever you write the minus sign, that means the next function has to be in parentheses. The next function, according to what they say, is g. So g is -2x. Remember, the parentheses were because the minus sign goes in, changes the symbol. So 5x plus 8 comes down, it stays the same, but negative and negative is now going to turn to positive. We're going to look for any like terms. Let me switch colors here. 5x is the same as 2x, and altogether that gives you 7x's. I like to cross mine off so I know I've already used them, but it's up to you. And then we've got 8 left over. Let's bring that down. Combine the functions, determine the domain and range. I did specify interval notation. So we're going to write the domain. Interval notation means, let's use brackets and parentheses. I guess I have to look at the graph before I know if it's a bracket or a parenthesis. But then the range here. Back to Desmos we go. Let me clear some of this writing. Now you can turn things on and off by clicking these circles. I'm going to turn off everything from the first warm-up problem so my graph looks blank. Let me go back and look at what the problem was. (7x plus 8). So I'm going to come back over here. Looks like I mistyped it earlier. Backspace 7x plus 8. Now I'm going to turn that on. And look, I renamed it k of x. We can't call it f of x. We can't call it h of x. We can't call it g of x because we've already got those names in the functions to start, f, g, and h. So when you get to an answer, you've got to rename it. You can name it any letter you want that hasn't been used yet. So we'll call that guy k of x. I've graphed them, turned it on. There's the line. Domain and range. Domain means start looking at the x-axis. How far left and how far right does it go? Well, if I start moving along this line to the left, it goes off the screen. If I start moving along this line to the right, it goes off the screen. I can move this thing around and look all over the place, and this line looks like it's never going to stop. So the idea is it's going forever in both directions. It's going left forever, and that's towards negative infinity, and it's going right forever, and that's towards positive numbers, and because it doesn't stop, that's also infinity. So we're going to come back in here. We're going to say this is negative infinity to infinity, positive infinity, and those aren't actual destinations. They're more of a direction. So we'll give them parentheses, not brackets, meaning it's not included. Now let's go look at the range. Now tell your brain you're moving down and you're moving up the line. Again, it's not going to stop in either direction, so you go up forever. That's the positive. Whoop, that's an 8. We want to make that 8 sideways. Infinity. There we go. And it goes down forever. It never stops. Boy, I'm off today. This is positive numbers, right? Positive at the top and negative to the bottom. At any rate, same idea. The range here will be negative infinity to infinity. All right, f plus h. What was f? F was 3x minus 2. Then write the plus sign. What was h? H is 5x plus 8. We didn't need parentheses in this because it's addition. You only use the parentheses when you're subtracting. So we can go ahead and collect like terms, 3x and 5x. It's a total of 8 x's. Then if we look at negative 2 and positive 8, add them together, you get positive 6. Remember, we want to rename this. Let me go see what I renamed mine. I forget now. I named it w of x. So I'm going to write w of x. I picked a new letter. X is still the variable in here, so that part's got to stay the same. And now I'm going to go to my Desmos, clear everything I've typed. I've got to turn off k of x from the last problem, turn on w of x. Oh my goodness, it almost looks identical. Look at this. Again, it goes off the screen forever. We can assume that these are going to have arrows on them. You can write that in if you want to on both sides. Again, it's going to go left and right forever. It's going to go up and down forever. So the domain's the same. Whenever you have a straight line that never stops, then domain and range are both negative infinity to infinity. Now, if you don't want to write all that out, a faster way to do it is just to make an R and then put this extra line through it. This means the same thing as negative infinity to infinity. And what those symbols mean is all real numbers. Symbol means all real numbers. That just means negative infinity to infinity. At some point, you're going to hit all the numbers in the negative direction and the positive direction. All right, keep cruising. How do they compare? So now we're going to add all three letters. We're going to do plus signs and minus signs. We'll forget about the domain and range for now. I just want you to know how to do this. Remember your PEMDAS? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or to mathematicians, parentheses go first, then exponents. Multiplying, dividing, addition, and subtraction. It's just the order you want to do things. H minus G is in parentheses, so I'm going to do that problem first. What was H? Well, if I look at the top, it's still 5x plus 8. Minus, remember, because of the minus sign, you've got to use parentheses. G was negative 2x. So that becomes 5x plus 8. The negative goes in, changes it to a positive 2x. And when you add like terms, this becomes 7x plus 8. All right, so there's the answer to the first part of the problem, but now we've got to do f plus all that stuff. So what was f? Well, f was 3x minus 2 plus, now we want to write the answer that we just got, which was 7x plus 8. No parentheses when it's a plus sign. We can just start collecting like terms. 3x and 7x is 10x. I like to cross them off to know I've used them. Negative 2, positive 8. It's positive 6. So there's the answer to f plus h minus g. Let me switch colors. We're now going to put f plus h in parentheses. So we're taking the parentheses and we're going to slide them over. And now g is all by himself outside. Well, you always start with the stuff in the parentheses. So what's f plus h? The f stuff, according to the top here, is 3x minus 2. Then write a plus sign. What is h? H is 5x plus 8. Collecting like terms, 3x's and 5x's is 8x's. We're done with those. Negative 2 and a positive 8 is positive 6. Now we can do the minus g. Remember, because of the minus sign, g has to be in parentheses. Well, what was g? G was, according to the top, negative 2x. Send in that minus sign to change the symbol. This will become 8x plus 6 plus 2x. That equals 10x plus 6. So in this case, it turns out it didn't matter where you had the parentheses. Turns out you got the same answer. How do they compare? They come out the same for this one. Does that always happen? Let's find out. Whoops, too many slides ahead. Okay, this time there's no plus signs. It's f minus h minus g. So we do what's in the parentheses first. That's h minus g. H, according to the top, is 5x plus 8. Minus, because of the minus sign, you have to do parentheses. What was g? G, again, is negative 2x. The negative goes in, changes the symbols. That becomes 5x plus 8. Negative and negative is positive 2x, which becomes 7x plus 8. I just combined the like terms. That gave me 7x's. All right, there's the first part, but now we have to do f minus that stuff. So f is 3x minus 2 minus, now we have to put 7x plus 8 in parentheses because of the minus sign. Send that in, change all the symbols. That becomes 3x minus 2 minus 7x minus 8. So 3x's take away 7x's, that's negative 4x's. Get rid of them, you're done with them. Negative 2 and negative 8 is negative 10. That's the final answer. All right, we're going to do that one more time, but we're going to slide the parentheses over. This time, f and h will be in parentheses. We're going to start with that. What was f? F was 3x minus 2 minus, because of the minus sign, we need some parentheses, 5x plus 8. That leaves me 3x minus 2. Send this in to change the symbols. Negative 5x, minus 8. I didn't change the symbol on that one. All right, 3x's and take away 5x's. That's negative 2x's. Get rid of them. We're done using them. Negative 2, negative 8. That gives you negative 10. There's our final answer. Turns out when they're all minus signs, they're different. Let me slide this thing out of the way. F minus h is different because they are not f minus h in parentheses both times. So whenever you have a minus sign in the parentheses slide, things are going to change. We saw that wasn't so much the case in that last one. Go ahead and go practice. Click on the world icon, see how you do.